Alright, so now that we got the car cleared away and the stand, and I got my upgrades laid out here, gonna go over it just real quick. As people that have paid attention to my comments, as they will know, I tend to divide upgrades into 3 categories. And then within each of those 3 categories, I also divide them into 3 levels of necessity, I guess is the best word I'll use right now. So the categories themselves are performance, handling, and aesthetics. Performance and handling are upgrades that are designed to improve those 2 categories. Aesthetics, honestly, that's really a category that no one truly needs. That's just a category to make a vehicle look better. For example, the wheels. The wheels that come on the rally car are either black or kind of like this yellowish green. Now, what I don't understand is why they put the black wheels on the green and black car and these greenish yellow wheels on the black and white car. Obviously, it would have made more sense to put the black wheels on the black and white car and these wheels on the green car. The color matches. So yeah, I bought 2 sets of these for the wheels, and that's just an aesthetics upgrade. That one has nothing to do with the 3 phases. I'm going to run the stock ones until they start to wear, or until they fully wear, I don't know, and then I'll put these on. So this is an aesthetics upgrade that it has no necessity whatsoever. Now, obviously, if you're doing competition with crawlers and you gain points for having scale accessories, then yeah, those aesthetic upgrades become a necessity. But for the most part, handling and performance upgrades are all that anyone truly should be concerned with. And then, as I mentioned, the subcategories, so I have what I would call required, and then the second subcategory would be nice to have, but not necessarily required. And then the third category is basically everything else. These are not required, they're not even recommended, they're not suggested, they're just upgrades that you can do that could help improve performance or handling. But to some extent, those really end up being more under aesthetics. A good example would be aluminum suspension arms. Those are designed to supposedly improve handling, but in reality, they can actually lower performance because of all the additional weight, and they're just bling. They're just aesthetics that make the vehicle look better, and those are things that you typically find on shelf queens. Now, one exception would be speedrun cars. That extra weight can actually help keep the vehicle planted. And since you're not going to have much movement in the suspension, that actually does improve handling. So getting to my 3 phases of upgrades, we're going to start with the phase 1, which is primarily handling upgrades, mostly in terms of adding weight to help keep the vehicle planted, but also the steering. So to start with, first one is going to be the aluminum bulkheads. And to some extent, this does have actually a performance, an increase in performance, but it's more about the handling because of the weight. The performance aspect is that these are obviously going to be more bulletproof than the plastic ones, so it's going to keep your bearings more stabilized, and it's just going to help keep everything centered. I don't do this on all vehicles, but for this one, I just figured might as well, and it should help improve the handling. Second upgrade is going to be a steering upgrade, and that is the machined aluminum servo saver. And as you can see, I actually have already put it together. I've already got it to the tightness level that I want. It's hard to move. It's not impossible to move, but it is very hard to move, and it is very solid. It's not going to move on its own, so that's part of it. And I'll get to these bushings in a second. The third one is going to be the servo saver brace, or steering column brace, whatever you want to call it. I'm not even sure what they actually call it. I forget. It should help keep the steering, because again, this is not plastic, so it's going to keep the steering more stabilized. It's going to keep your steering more accurate. So a handling upgrade. Now, as for these bushings, yeah, I've had people say that just go ahead and use the bushings. They're something about pre-oil bushings, that they've got the oil in the brass, something to help keep it lubricated. That's all good. And it may be very good. I'm not going to say, I don't know. That's not my area of knowledge. But what I will be doing is I will be replacing not only these bushings or bearings, well, replacing the bushings with bearings, but I will actually be, over time, throughout the 3 phases, I will be replacing all of the bearings. One of the biggest complaints that people have had is that they are just using metal shielded bushings as opposed to rubber shielded. I'm actually going somewhere in between. I like Avid RC, and their Revolution line of bearings are outstanding. What gives these an advantage is that they have a metal shield on one side and a rubber, or actually a silicone kind of plastic shield on the other side. So what you do with these is, for example, steering. You know, or I shouldn't say steering, I should say the, let's say the uprights, like here. So when you put these in, you install them so that the plastic or rubber silicone shield is facing outward on both sides, and the metal shield is facing inwards. What gives these an advantage over most other bearings is bearings that have a double metal shield. They are obviously they rotate much faster, but they don't provide any protection. Rubber shielded bearings on both sides, they provide a massive amount of protection, but they also have too much resistance. So these give you the benefit of both. You've got the protection from the silicone rubber shield on the outside. You've got the metal shield on the inside for less resistance. And you know, again, I'm going to replace these as needed based on each phase. I just brought these over just to show everyone what they look like. If you haven't seen the Avid RC Revolution bearings before. But so that's going to be phase 1. Phase 2, first and foremost, involves electronics upgrade, and some people might consider what I'm installing to be a slight downgrade due to RPMs. The reason is the stock motor is a 3300 kV, and I'm installing a 3150 kV, slightly lower, but I'll get to why on that in a little bit. But you know, and it's the Quicrun series, so it's already got the battery connector. I'm sticking with the XT60, so that'll be part of phase 2. And obviously, phase 1 was primarily a handling. Phase 2 is going to be primarily a performance upgrade. Next up is going to be replacing the diff housings with the machined aluminum housings. Going to be replacing the servo with a standard size servo, which is why I've got the standard servo adapter. And then since I'll be doing the diff housings, we also have the S2 steel outputs for the diff housings. We have the center drive shaft, S2 steel. Now moving over to the phase 3, we're going to start with that spool. And part of why I'm going with a 3150 kV instead of something equal or higher, because I'll be replacing the center diff with the direct drive. And the key thing about the direct drive is that it also has a lower tooth count, thus it's going to have the vehicle going faster. So between a slightly slower motor and a slightly faster spool, that should pretty much balance out the two. Next upgrade, and again, this one is kind of a combination of performance and handling. Going to be replacing the front and rear, the rear uprights, the front steering knuckles. The last one will be adding the sway bars, anti-sway bars. I do have the disc brake, I was one of the first 200, so that's where the steering knuckles in this came from, but honestly, I am not going to be installing these. I have no interest in them. So there you have it. There are the 3 phases of the upgrades. Hopefully I'll have the first running video up sometime soon. That's it for now. Mahalo, and until next time.